Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show, 888-659-3727. It is so great to be here, and we were just about on time today. So mazel tov to Joe and to everyone in the chat room. If you're listening to the broadcast on Stitcher Radio, iTunes Radio, iHeartRadio, any of the audio resources, welcome. We would love for you guys to participate. I do notice that most of our callers come through our video resources, either The Bald Truth, Joe Tillman's YouTube page, which is youtube.com/hairtransplantmentor. So if you're not already subscribed to that, go subscribe to it. But we would love to hear from some of you guys who are listening in your cars, some of you guys who are listening on other apps, just audio apps. And listen, I know every once in a while we do get a caller from those resources, but you know, if you're in your car, if you're sitting in traffic right now here in Los Angeles or anywhere else on the West Coast, or if you are on a burrito run on the East Coast, which is usually around the time Joe goes on his, call us. This is the Hair Loss Show. I've been doing this broadcast for over 20 years. In June, I will be hitting the 21-year mark of doing this broadcast. The guy on your left, Joe Tillman, has been a part of this broadcast in one way or another for at least a decade, I would say.
Yeah.
Maybe more. Joe used to just bug the shit out of us calling in to let us know who he was. Just kidding. Joe was always famous.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, yeah, let's start to have this guy on the broadcast. And doing that has made me a lot of enemies. However, it has absolutely made this show what it is today. And if it wasn't for bringing Joe on, honestly, I wouldn't be doing this right now. There's no way. Joe is the guy that said, look, we got to get our stuff out on YouTube. There's a lot of bullshit happening in this industry that you're not even aware about, Kobren, because you are basically 1 foot out the door, ready to retire. We need to bring your ass back in here and make some changes. And I have to say, Joe, I want to thank you for that, because while there's been a lot of aggravation dealing with the bullshit of this industry and also dealing with just the, we talk about the physicians all the time, but there's a lot of, just negativity wrapped around hair loss in general, sadly. And then there's a tremendous amount of toxicity wrapped around the message forums and what's happening on YouTube and all this stuff that goes on, because as men, we are, full of rage and testosterone. And when we're dealing with our hair loss, we're even more fucked up. So everyone's mad at each other. Everyone is calling each other out. Everyone is just, hitting everyone up with bro science all over the internet. It's a fucking mess.
I've learned to hate people.
I didn't have to learn.
I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud?
But I have to say, when, I was thinking about last week's program, when we get calls like we did last week, and then I get emails and, people reach out to us thanking us for what we do, it honestly makes it all worthwhile. I know that sounds Pollyannish. I know that sounds, look, Kobren, we know you make money doing this. Don't sound like you're a fucking altruist. Look, I am a capitalist. But I happen to be, thrilled that I could earn a living doing what I love to do.
That's a beautiful part about this. It's, You've talked about it for years, and being on my own in this industry, I've learned myself now that there are so many opportunities to make cheap decisions, meaning less than classy decisions for a quick buck. If I wanted to, man, I could be setting myself up to retire in just a few years with all the opportunities out there to really literally fuck people over for money. It's so easy in this field, but I've continued, I've stayed on the path that I set out for myself so long ago to avoid that kind of thing, and it's made it so enjoyable. Like you're just talking about, people writing and saying, God, your show is so awesome. Like, you guys have really helped me. And then, for my own website and my channel, people saying, God, I found this and this is such great information, and you're getting the same thing. It's it kind of brings me back to a reminder of why I do this. I could be doing anything. I've done different jobs in the past. If I had my dream, I'd be in Polynesia as working as a dive master, but I'm not. So I'm here doing something I also enjoy, making a living, and not having to worry about any sort of claims of me selling my soul. Well, people say it anyway, but I know the truth. I'm not.
People say it anyway. And I had a conversation with a politician, a big politician over at the ISHRS yesterday. And I finally just had to tell him, I'm like, you really have no fucking clue what I do in this field, do you? And then he said things like, well, you do this and you do that, and, but you make money and you do this and you do that. I'm like, well, do you make a living doing what you do? And I go, well, of course. Like, well, you think you're helping people in what you do? It's like, yeah, sure. Of course I do. Do you think you deserve the living that you're earning doing what you do? Oh, but it's different, this and that. I'm just like, I think to myself, even when you're speaking to good guys who do good work, especially when they're politicians, they really have no clue of the impact of the type of work that we do.
Yeah.
They don't get it. They don't listen to the show, half of these guys. A percentage of these guys do. But, especially the guys who are overseas, South America, and this happened to be a guy who was in South America that I was speaking with. They just see me as, okay, I wrote a popular book and I founded the American Hair Loss Association. I have this other organization, the IHRS, and they don't see the day-to-day stuff that we do that they don't even understand or touch.
Right.
They don't have their fingers on the pulse of this field, so they are unable to make what I would consider to be educated decisions about how to move in certain directions in order to help save patients from the evil that is, the cesspool of this field, and, help their ethical colleagues to practice in this field in a much better environment, if that made any sense at all. So I'm rambling a little bit. Okay.
No, it makes sense. And I don't know, I guess, it's just getting back to that, not being Pollyannish, but thank you for what you're saying before. And I guess thank you to the viewers and listeners for motivating us to keep going, because it's because of you guys and your comments about what we're doing for you that does a lot for us as well.
Well, I want to say hi to the guy in Brazil, because I was actually speaking to someone in Brazil yesterday, a physician, and the unbelievable lack of information this guy has been able to glean about the bald truth and the American Hair Loss Association and the IHRS, for a guy who's my age, for a guy who's been in the industry for a long time, for a guy who's known me or of me for 20 years, it's fucking astounding to me. I don't even think this guy realizes that we do a show every week or twice a week.
Yeah, but yeah, you just open up a whole different line of conversation I could have. But yeah,
But
no,
you
I
know,
get it.
it's amazing. You know, we are trying to go out there and help the consumer. And also, what I find interesting is I'm trying to personally help this organization, which I think has a tremendous amount of merit, the ISHRS, kind of not cannibalize itself, not, destroy themselves and destroy the possibility of what they can do as far as training other physicians by putting themselves out there in a very naive, non-nuanced, dangerous way. And I don't want to get into specifics, but all I can say is I'm not even frustrated anymore. You know, I've been doing my best to try to guide them in the best direction possible. But this guy actually said to me that he believes that, I believe that I would benefit if the ISHRS was not doing well or something to that effect. And I'm thinking to myself,
That doesn't make sense.
if I wanted that to happen, I would just leave you guys alone and let you guys fucking implode, because that's what's happening right now.
And just wait.
Why would I take the time to make suggestions, to provide commentary, to kind of tell you where you're making your missteps as far as trying to educate the public about what's happening in this field? All I would have to do is step back and watch you guys fail. But what does that do? If you guys do that, then that harms the consumer, in my view. I don't want to see that happen.
Well, the confusion or even the issue I take with that assumption, that with that statement that he said, was the comparison that they're the same kind of organization. They're not. I did a video about this. IAHRS is a standards-based, quality-based organization. ISHRS is an educational organization. Collegially out. What's the word?
Collegial. Now you fucked me up. Collegiality.
Collegiality.
Yeah,
collegiality education. It's actually in their in the original motto and mission statement, but it's two completely separate types of organizations. And unless he's looking at the ISHRS as a standards-based organization, a quality, I guess that's not the right way to put it, because
this is what I told. This is what I told you about the conversations. I did speak to you about it in brief, which I normally would never do, but I thought it was important because I said that I was going to bring something up on the program, and I think it was important that you kind of knew about this before I brought this up. But this guy actually said, well, you know what? I mean, the organization is different because you make money from the organization and you promote doctors and we don't. And I'm like, wait a second. So you're telling me that you don't charge annual dues? And if doctors don't pay annual dues, they're going to be put on your website? You don't have an entire section, look for a hair transplant surgeon, whatever you guys call it?
Yeah,
and you don't
find a doctor.
Find a doctor, and you don't promote on Instagram and Facebook and whatever, like, to find the best doctors in the world, go to the ISHRS. You guys do that a lot more than I do because I don't do that. You're not seeing me take out advertisements or Facebook ads or on my Instagram page talking about how to find a good surgeon. That's what you guys do. It's unbelievable to me. I'm telling motherfuckers not to have surgery if they could avoid it. But if you do decide to have surgery, I created this organization almost 20 years ago as a place to start to do your research, because if you want to know the truth, the sad fucking facts is that a large percentage of people who are in other organizations suck at what they do. Now people are getting better, but that's just the way that it is. That's why I do what I do.
Well said.
888-659-3727. I don't even know if it was well said because I feel a little buzzed already. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
This is James from Orange County. I talked to you guys last week.
James, how are you, man? What's going on?
Doing all right. I was actually calling to follow up from our convo last week.
Okay, good.
I did make, so I did drew a bunch of photos, kind of try to create like a timeline. I don't know if you got any of my stuff, Joe. Did you get any of that?
I did, James, and I just want to let you know I've been slammed trying to get this next video out. I did get the emails, and your note that you're going to go. You had an appointment for this week. I believe it's for this
right,
week.
on Thursday. Yeah, it's for Thursday. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually the receptionist that took my call, she seemed kind of taken back when I told her I was a past patient, and when I mentioned it was like over 20 years ago, she kind of like gasped a little bit.
Really? She knows.
Yeah,
she knows what's coming, man.
She probably knows what's coming, and then she's like, "Oh, well, would you like me to text you directions?" Sure, go ahead. I never got the text.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, good thing you know how to get there.
I know how to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know how to get there. It's not a big deal, but
there's something called Waze.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar.
Yeah. So
it was dismissed.
So okay, so they kind of felt it was a trouble call. So so tell me, so you picked up the telephone, and
I was super calm about it.
Yeah.
Called and called on a morning and asked if I could come in on Thursday. I named my time, named my day, because that was the only time and day I had really available to go, and they had an opening, and so now I'm scheduled for this Thursday, and we'll see how it goes.
And what did you say? You just wanted to have a consultation? You're considering getting more work done?
I said nothing, just consultation. Yeah. Yeah. And then I didn't elaborate on anything. I do have my records.
That was a good move.
I do have my records from Dr. Elliott, because I had, back in 2012, I had a consultation with Dr. McAndrews in Pasadena, and I had asked for a release. Actually, I probably had that consultation earlier on. Anyways, 2012, I was going through a rough patch with depression and whatnot, and I went to go get my medical records from Dr. Elliott, so they signed them over to me. So I have copies of them, which I took to all my consultations, the recent ones I went on last year. Actually, Dr. Bobak he actually went, like, combed through the whole all my records, like, through procedures, and kind of explained them to me and explained what got done, what didn't get done. And I basically didn't get probably half of what I paid for at the time.
Oh, so he took a look at your records, and then he took a look at your scalp, and he made an assessment that, this probably did not occur.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly. And the fact that my donors, my strips are so just huge compared to what I was told I was getting. He said it just didn't equate.
Okay. Well, listen, it's great that you have that information. I'm glad that you took our advice and decided to make that phone call, because it's absolutely important for you on many levels to be able to sit down, let this physician know how his handiwork affected your life, and like you said, it was in an adverse way, and see what he can do for you.
I was almost thinking of maybe kind of writing it in like an essay form, or maybe not an essay, but just like a letter to him, so I can kind of get it all out.
And just reading it?
Because well, I'm not going to read it to him. I'll tell him what I can, and I'll leave him a copy if he wants to read it, because he could always turn me away and tell me to go kick rocks.
Yeah, well, that's actually not a bad idea, to let him sit there with something in his hand, something that's tangible.
Yeah.
And he will sit there and read that in his kitchen table after a couple of scotches, and maybe he'll really think about what what you believe he did to you.
Yeah. I just wish I would have had, can't do anything about it now. But if I would have just known about you guys or known about the show, before all this, maybe I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in today, or if I would have, I wasn't even given, the whole finasteride, and I didn't even know about it back then. I wasn't aware.
I was going to say, when I looked at your photos, I noted that, yeah, you've got all this work done on the front, but you've got, you've also had the work on the top, and you've had a lot of loss. And, had you been aware of medication back when you started this, even if you did have the procedures, you'd still be in most likely a much stronger position than you are now, simply because you'd have more native hair to work with and to camouflage what's up there.
Well, let me ask you, at what point in your life did you find out about finasteride? Because did you just have your transplants and then stop researching?
Yeah, once I had them done, I remember after my first procedure, I had wanted to shave my head, and it's even written in the notes. Joe, I don't know if I sent you a picture, a copy of my medical records from Dr. Elliott, but I was going through them the other day, and it read in the notes that I had asked Dr. Elliott, "Oh, can I shave my head?" And this is coming from like a naive 19-year-old kid, and he suggested a military-style cut, which we're talking mid to late 90s. That would be like a flat top style cut, right?
Right.
And so I go to the hairdresser, get my hair cut military style, and then I see this wide gap scar. And I remember driving home crying about it. I have that memory. Just driving home crying, like I can't even have, I don't have the freedom to have whatever haircut I want. And so I think, after the subsequent procedures, I think I did not do any research on it. I just kind of gave up, and just was like, well, I'm just going to, just kind of fell numb to it, just wore a hat.
Well, but even 10 years, if I remember correctly, you said that you've been listening to the program for almost a decade.
Yeah, about that much time. Yeah, I would say.
So
hard to kind of.
Would you say that
when I found out about it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So would you say that a decade ago you had more hair than you have now?
Not much. Not by much, if any.
All right.
So the first time I had heard about it was when I went to go see. Actually, I did hear about it because I found Dr. McAndrews through IHRS. He's listed on your website.
Right.
And so he prescribed it to me, and I was on it for a while. And I think at the time it was just, I'm pretty sure you can find it a lot less expensive than it was back then. So back then I just couldn't keep up with like the cost, I guess. I didn't have, like I said, disposable income for me is not, I don't have a lot of it. So I just couldn't keep it up. And when I went to last year, when I went and had my consultations, I really didn't get, aside from Ziering, who suggested I be on it, none of the other doctors really suggested it to me.
Yeah, well,
and
I mean,
Benham
go ahead. Say that again.
I was going to say, Dr. Benham even said that he didn't see any further miniaturization of hairs, like around, where it's really bald in the crown area. So he didn't think that it could benefit me that much, at this point.
And the reality is it may not, but I do think that if you are at some point, again, in a position to get repair work, or if you decide to, to kind of, depending on the type of repair work you do have, if that becomes a reality, it's something that you could consider. Because if you took it without any adverse side effects, you still want to make sure that, and you're still relatively young, but you're in your 40s, the donor area that would be utilized could still miniaturize in time. You want to protect as much hair as you can, especially if you're going to invest any more time, money, or just put an emotional effort into repairing yourself. So just have it as a consideration, and that's something you can talk to your doctors about. I do think it's really important. I'm proud of you that you decided to, pick up the phone, call Elliot's office, and see at the very least, and again, it could be non-confrontational. Just sit there. You are a patient of his. Explain to him what this has done to your life and what you were trying to accomplish right now, and that you are unable to do so because you do not have the money to get this fixed. And I really think that if it's done correctly, you just talk to him the way you're speaking with us, there is a possibility that this guy will write you a check or something.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't offer me work.
Well, you can just say, and just don't be like a hell no, just say, be gracious.
The best thing to do is be gracious, be respectful, and politely decline, and explain. You got to understand. With the way that I feel now and the way that the result is, it's difficult for me to feel good about accepting that. But I do appreciate the offer. I'm going to have to move on to another clinic to see, what they can do to help me out. So if you're willing to do a procedure on me instead, maybe you'd be willing to help out with the cost of another procedure. And, I think it would be a good idea to let them know that you're talking to us. Maybe not say that you're calling the show. Let them know that you're talking to people.
I would say at his first sitting, I would not do that.
Yeah,
because I think that it'll make Elliot feel a little too pressured, and maybe he's being extorted in some way.
But if you mention it later, I think that actually gives it the potential or stronger potential to look like a shakedown. It's like, well, if you didn't help me the first time I went to see you, well, now I've called in.
Well, how about
now start telling people?
How about he doesn't lead with it and see, and feels it out and see how Elliot reacts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a given. Do it at the end of any sort of discussion you have with him.
Yeah, and you can just say, listen, I told my story on the Bald Truth, and I'm just trying to get as much information as possible, and just you can let him know that it's out there. The story is going to be out there, but it has to be done in a very subtle way. Otherwise, it's going to appear to these guys, they all get their hackles up. It's going to appear that he's being extorted.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's not what's happening. I mean, you're just asking this guy for help, and that's how it has to be framed.
For sure. The other question I had, Joe, if you recall, I don't know how much you got to read into what I sent you, but I had different approaches from each consultation. Every doctor had a different approach for me. And I just want to know what the most realistic one would be.
Well, I didn't look through all the details. I mean, I've been glancing through it while we've been talking. Can you just give me a quick summary? Like, you've seen how many doctors? I know you've seen at least 2. Was it more than that?
I saw Dr. Dower was my first consultation. I believe Dr. Benham was my second.
Yeah.
Then I saw Dr. Ziering, or I went to Dr. Ziering's office. Then I saw Dr. Benham a second time. But at that point, I had cut my hair down to where I normally cut it.
Yeah.
And then, actually, I'd shaved my head before I went to see Dr. Ziering. And then I went to see Dr. Benham a second time. And then I had my appointment with Dr. Bauback.
Okay, so so with each doctor, give me a quick rundown of what they suggested for your case.
Dr. Dower was a pretty quick consultation. Like, he didn't spend a whole lot of time with me. He said, kind of empathized with my situation. He told me, like, I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but he said something like, what did he say? 1,500 or so 1,300 grafts or something. FUE. He could recycle some of the corners, and then he didn't even draw anything on my head. That I can remember.
Yeah.
He just kind of like said where he could put it, and then he said in the future, probably body hair.
Okay.
His consultation seemed a little uneventful. Dr. Benham, on the other hand, I spent a long time there. He would like gaze at my head. He would like he'd like kind of gaze, and I don't know. Like it seemed like he was like meditating on it just to kind of see, what he would do. He kind of suggested the same thing, but more balance, like the same amount of grafts, but balance. His approach was to kind of balance things out, not necessarily remove the hairline, but balance things out. And keep in mind, I don't have temple points. Those are gone. They've already receded.
Yeah,
so
I know.
And do you see pictures? I sent you pictures from like less than a year.
I've seen the pictures. I've seen your profile. I've seen what the work looks like. So Dr. Benham was kind of in agreement with Dr. Dower, 1,500 or so grafts to soften things up, balance things out, maybe build some temple points. Is that what he was saying?
I don't know about the temple point. I don't know if he said anything about temple points, but
so far what we've got 2 doctors saying let's add more hair to the issue to make it better, right?
Right, and then he wanted to have me do scalp exercises for like at least 2 months, and he was going to try to do a revision. Now, pretty much the consensus is has been with all the doctors that I do not have good scalp laxity. So none of them, except for Benham, suggested that. And he said he has different techniques for doing scar revisions, so I don't know if that sets him apart. And then he uses this stuff he suggested using this stuff called amniofix. Do you know what that is? I think it's like a type of PRP maybe, or a type of A-cell. I don't know.
So many names about
not exactly.
It's probably some sort of like some sort of extracellular matrix that helps to stimulate recovery or repair of
wound healing.
Wound healing, exactly, kind of like a cell. It might be. I'm just guessing. But I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. It's like it's all adjunct stuff. I just want to know, the surgical approach, adding, removing, moving, what was going on. You said Dower wanted to add hair, maybe take some out of the corners, recycle it. Benham wanted to add more hair, do scalp laxity exercises for revision. What did Dr. Bobak suggest?
So Ziering, he wanted to do all kinds of stuff, build the temple points, do SMP on around like the edges of my crown, SMP the scar, 3 procedures, over harvest. He had really like far out there. His stuff was a little too far out for me.
Okay,
I didn't.
That's fine. And then Dr. Bobak's recommendation at Alvear Armani?
His actually, his was the most expensive. He spent the most time with me. He analyzed Elliott's report, told me, what it was all about, what I got, what I didn't get. He wanted to do the most. I think same thing, kind of intentionally over harvest to kind of balance out my entire scalp. And I think he wanted to do they said I had 4,500 grafts left. And he wanted to recycle the corners and SMP into the scar, and also beard hair into the scar. Do some beard, some scalp hair on the scar, and maybe some body hair on the scalp, as well as whatever he could take.
All right, Joe. Listen, I'm going to say this. You're taking a look at his pictures now, and I don't have them in front of me. If he had his druthers, and he was able to do whatever he could to repair his situation, knowing what you know, and you're not a physician, and I could take a look later and give him my opinion as well, what would you suggest?
I'll tell you what I would do, knowing what I know, and this was on my. I had this situation for myself. I would investigate a brow lift, because your hairline. I caught a glimpse of your photos from around the time you actually had the procedure. You had a full fucking head of hair.
I know.
Not just a full head of hair, but you had a strong low hairline, and that's what he worked with. He started from there as the go point and worked his way back. And so your hairline, the central hairline, is probably 5 centimeters from the glabella, which is the center point between your eyebrows. And your temples have a very broad sweeping curvature down to 0 temple points, as you mentioned. And this is a lopsided situation where the front is front heavy and you don't have the temple points to kind of balance it out. So whoever mentioned that, yeah, I agree with that. But the way I look at this is, if you have good laxity for your forehead, which sounds weird, you can have some or all of the frontal area of that hairline removed in one fell swoop, raising the hairline, recycling those grafts safely, because those grafts will be dissected under a microscope to be reimplanted behind the removal area. And then you could come back for a second pass to blend in a new hairline in the front that's not as low as the existing one, that's more natural, single hair grafts pointing in the right direction, and have a more natural angle to your temple points, a higher hairline, a sharper corners in the temples, and then some minor temple point work just to balance it out. Avoid the crown at all costs. Just deal with the top and get as close to natural as possible. Get as close to, like, this is the approach I took in my first pass with Dr. Wong. The only goal I had was to look like a normal person, to not have eyeballs looking at my hair instead of my eyes when I'm talking to people. That's all I gave a shit about. The rest of it was just gravy, right?
But here's the reality. I don't want to cut you off, Joe, but I'm going to. I always do that. Sorry.
But you always do.
But, I believe, and I'm sure you believe the same, that having it's basically like a reverse brow lift, having that particular procedure it's a very specific type of procedure when it comes to hair restoration surgery. And in my view, there's only a handful of doctors who really do it well and have done it consistently. Obviously, one guy that does it well is Dr. Wong. I know Dr. Jeff Epstein down in Miami does it well, and he's done a lot of them.
Paul Rose does as well.
Paul Rose.
Someone in the chat room mentioned that.
Paul Rose absolutely does, and he's done quite a few of them. And same with
I would disagree with Mike R. They're not intense. They look intense, but they're not intense. It's no more intense than a regular strip, and the scar line tends to be a lot better.
It heals a lot better. It heals a lot
better. It really
does. This for some reason scar tissue in that particular area, and once it's sutured correctly, in most cases, and I can't say this with most strip scars, in most cases the line is extremely fine, and very light smattering or grafting completely conceals it.
Yep.
So it's a real option. But there's also an option depending on the type of skin that you have. And, and I did see your pictures briefly, but I don't have them in front of me. To remove the grafts with minimal or to very not much visible scarring, just manually using FUE coring. There'll be a lot of guys who will suggest that as well. And in the end, it's going to be a choice. I mean, if you are talking with the right physicians, they'll be able to guide you, and it's all going to be based on your particular skin characteristics, healing characteristics, your sun exposure, the amount of sun exposure that you normally would get.
I get quite a bit. I get quite a bit of sun.
Yeah, I mean, because you would have to be out of the sun for a while, at least, especially if you're going to have multiple grafts removed, if you really want to lessen that scarring. I mean, you have to be out of the sun if you have a hairline excision, or what is it called?
A brow lift.
A brow lift. Well, but it's actually called something else.
Head strip.
Something. Well, it's not even. But anyway, so I mean, you're going to have to basically take time out, or at least cover it with sunblock. But
I guess
what
the best.
I guess what Joe is saying, and I guess what we are saying is, based on your images, I personally think that you're pretty repairable. And again, I don't have them on this computer. I have them on another computer. I think you're pretty repairable. And I think that it would take less than you think, but you have to be prepared just to try to look normal as opposed to someone who has a decent head of hair. Because
and one thing I have to stress, James, is if you are in a position where you can remove enough hair to really make yourself, to set the table for another procedure where you can get, a little bit of a return to normalness or naturalness, don't get greedy. Don't be concerned about something being too thin. Don't be concerned about, and I only say this because a lot of repair patients that are in a bad situation, sometimes when this actually happens many times, when they are on the road to recovery, when they are on the road to repair, they start to lose sight of what the actual goal is. And I've had many patients come back that have had a complete 180 degree turnaround. They look like 100% natural, like a miracle turnaround. And then they start getting upset because it's thin or it's see-through or, something's out of place. And so I'm going to mention this to you now so that hopefully it plants a seed that if you do, if you are able to put yourself on this path to repair back to naturalness, remember that naturalness doesn't necessarily mean a lot of hair. It just means you don't look like you've had, multiple bad procedures. You just look like any other guy that's thinning, right? So never ever forget that. That's the number one goal here. Yeah. Anything you get on top of that, that's gravy. That's bonus. Okay.
Age appropriate,
Well, it's even beyond it.
But also
just balding.
Thin. Balding.
You want to look like a normal balding man, someone who's not walking around feeling that they need to be under a hat because they are hiding something that has been a man-made, unnatural appearance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you are okay with that, based on your images, and I'm not a physician, it is my opinion that you might be able to be repaired to the point where it looks like, at least from a social distance, that nothing was ever done. And would that make you happy? All right, dude, we lost your call. Hello?
You there?
All right, dude, you were, yeah. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, okay. No, that would absolutely make me happy. Yeah.
Okay, so your first step is you have this consultation with Dr. Elliott. Be very cool. I don't disagree with Joe about talking about the bald truth, but I actually think in this particular case, knowing what I know about this particular doctor, I might just kind of save that towards the end if you feel things are not going well. Because all I can say is this is a person who might get his hackles up, and you don't want to have to deal with that.
For sure.
So while, yes, it's great leverage to have, you do not want to end up dealing with any extra bullshit that you don't have to deal with, whether it's just a call from his attorney or whatever, just because, that's what these guys do. Not that anything could happen, but it's just another, some aggravation out of your day, or in your day. I would just go there, tell him what you want to tell him. I think it's a great idea to provide something in writing so he has something to read. You can casually say that, you called the program and, talked about your situation a little bit, but I would wait to the end if you choose to do that. But you really need to there has to be a balance to that. Otherwise, this guy's going to just get pissed.
Maybe as an alternative, don't mention anything about you calling the show unless he asks you, have you talked to anyone else about this?
I think at most I would say that I've been talking to an advocate, but I wouldn't go as far as to say who, where, what. on what.
Well, he'll start asking most
platform
likely. Well,
Well,
who's the advocate?
All you have to
But-
say is you don't feel comfortable, right now talking about it. Just say, you're getting some, pretty sound advice about, how to be, potentially be corrected. And you can talk about your consultations. You can talk about all that stuff. And listen, it depends on the personality. If it was another physician, and listen, I know where all the bodies are buried. I have spoken to so many people who have actually gone to this particular physician and have had checks written, but it has to be done in a very specific way. And part of that is appealing to his sensibility of just being a human being. He's older now. He's thinking differently now. And, he is in a position where he could afford, from what I understand, to potentially write you a decent-sized check to help you get repaired. But a lot of these guys, they don't want to have their backs put against the wall. So I would just appeal to his sensibility of, just being a human being and knowing that he fucked your life up for 20 years.
Yeah.
All right, man?
I can do that.
All right. Well,
Thanks
let
for
us
the
know.
advice.
Call us.
Appreciate
We should be live on Friday. I mean, I have some guests coming in tomorrow and maybe Thursday. I mean, I'll be recording for the next couple of days. But I'm pretty sure, unless something happens with Joe, that we'll be live on Friday. So call us. Take notes. I mean, you can even have your iPhone in your pocket if you want, recording it, just so that you have it. I mean, what do you think about that, Joe?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Get it documented.
Yeah. But I have a pretty good feeling that if you really approach it in just a very human way and just sit there and say, look, I'm not even angry anymore. It's just, I just need help. He'll write you a check.
Yeah.
All right?
Sound advice.
All right,
Appreciate
man.
you guys.
All right, listen, let us know what happens, and we're here to help as much as we can, all right?
If I don't talk to you guys Friday, I'll call in on Tuesday and let you know how it goes down.
Absolutely. Good luck.
Okay.
How it went.
Good luck,
Good luck,
man.
buddy.
Thanks,
Okay,
guys.
bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. And, the reason I say this, normally I would tell these guys, tell them to fucking say you spoke to Spencer Kobren. But I know this particular guy. And it may not resonate the way he wants it to.
It may not go down the way we hope it does.
Yeah. I mean, either it may end up giving this old guy a heart attack, or he's gonna stand up and put up his fists.
Damn you, Kobren!
Well, all I can say is there have been refunds in the past, and some of them have been full.
Yeah.
So, all I know is that the guy's willing to write a check, and
Or he has been in the past.
he has been in the past. So that's all I can say. Phone number 888-659-3727. Let's take another phone call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, Spencer and Joe. It's Dirk Diggler from New York.
Dirk, what's happening?
Dirk,
How's it
what's up?
hanging, Dirk?
Don't you just love that name, that motto?
I do, man.
Great.
It is a great. So is the film.
That was really a great movie.
It was.
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg. Yeah, it's Burt Reynolds.
I mean, that was Burt Reynolds. Really, that was his swan song, man. That was his last huge. I mean, that just, let him rest in peace, man.
Hey.
Absolutely.
Striptease, man. Striptease.
Well, not that I didn't enjoy striptease, but
Yeah, Demi Moore. How hot was she, right? Unbelievable. Another great one.
You know what?
I'm doing well. Yeah, go ahead.
They all fall apart at some point. They all hit the wall.
You are the reality check.
That's why I tell guys, do not marry somebody because of their looks. Do never do that. If you think as hot as she is today, that's going to change. So you better like this person if you're going to take that. I mean, really like her.
That is amazing advice. It's so true.
When brick walls want to take a vacation, they ask Spencer to stand in.
That's it. That is it.
You mean you don't? You mean you don't trade her up for a younger version?
Well, no, you can do that. That's always a possibility. But why take the time to and deal with all the legalities of getting married? A lot of guys, as soon as they find a hot chick, they're like, I'm gonna latch onto this woman. I'm gonna marry her, not because she's really smart or funny or interesting, or it's just because she's got great tits and she's hot.
Right. Absolutely.
And then you know what happens? You got child support payments. You got 3 wives that you're paying alimony for, and you're hustling hair until you're 55 years old. Sorry,
right, and
that's
then
somebody else's life.
And you end up dropping dead at 50-something.
Yeah. I know guys in this industry. They're on their 3rd and 4th wives. They're not stopping. I'm like, what?
Right.
Haven't you learned your fucking lesson, man?
Exactly. Yeah.
So true. So effing true, guys. So, very good advice. I know you guys are busy, but great to see you on the air. I got 3 questions real quick. So I saw a couple of weeks ago, I don't know which show, Andrew Zarian stopped by. He was playing with you under his desk.
Yeah. I allow him to do that once in a while.
Absolutely, and you maintain a great faith. So
thank you.
Knows.
Well, he's not that good.
I took a screenshot of that, by the way. Look for it on Instagram.
Not that good. Yeah. So that I noticed, because you and I don't know if you guys remember, I am the one that went to Dr. Prasad with the ACell PRP.
Oh yeah.
You were the one.
Yeah.
The $5,000 man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ended up freaking out, and thank God that's just around the time when I was getting involved with your, with the Bald Truth. And, I obviously got the information back then from you too late because I just started watching you, and listening to you rather. But so it just freaked me out because I started to lose ground on my hair because I went from brand name Propecia to generic finasteride. Yeah, the generic finasteride. So, and that was given. I started off as a Bosley patient. I had a little recession on the right side, and I remember asking you, Joe, about that, and you said, "Hey, that's perfectly kind of normal. One side you'll have some recession," because it freaked me out. Right, I'm 48 now. Yeah. It happened when I was in my 30s, and I said, I'm looking at the pictures of these old pictures of me, and it just freaked me out because it just made me like, whoa, this looks weird. Am I, dying? Do I have cancer? Is it, it was a weird with my hair because I really have thick hair. It covers a lot of ground. So it freaked me out, and that's when I stepped in. A friend of mine told me, he was much older, in his 60s, and he said, "No, go, possibly get a hair transplant. Go see someone." And I went, and they said, "Oh yeah, I mean, they were really cool. They said, hey, you can kind of get away with not getting one, but this will, if we get this done here, right, we get a transplant." It'll help this recession in the front, and it did.
But that's how some of these guys sleep at night. They throw it out there to say, well, I gave him a choice not to have it done, and he chose to have it done.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was good. I mean, I have very coarse hair, so it worked out for me well. And then they put me on brand name Propecia, and I was on that for years, 4 or 5 years, right, brand name. And of course, it was costing me around the time $2 and change for every 90 days, right, or whatever, 90-day supply. And then 4 years later afterwards, they say, hey, no, you can go on this generic, right? It'll save you a ton of money. And of course, it was cheap as hell with all of the discounts that you see, like on Good RX, right? All these commercial, right? You can get these free cards and stuff. And it was amazingly cheap. And I fell for it. And went on that for about 6 months, and I started to see some major hair loss, major. Freaked out, and then that's when I heard about the PRP, and I got that done, and then something told me to. I think it was one of your programs that I was looking at search for an old program that talked about brand name, right, Propecia, and I said, could this a generic because of this. So I when I did the ACell PRP with Dr. Prasad, I also asked him, please prescribe me Propecia. But don't give me generic. I want the brand name. And he even...
Is that your mother yelling at you in the background?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that. That's my rental.
I'm just kidding.
Everybody here in Queens, I'm in Queens now. I have a rental. So
You're in Queens. We're in Queens.
I'm near Howard Beach, not too far from Andrews area.
Interesting.
And, I grew up in Brooklyn, not too far from you. I went to Abraham Lincoln High School, which in Ocean Parkway.
Yeah.
I grew up. I was born and raised in Kensington, which is right by Coney Island. And
let me tell you something. The area of Queens you live, like in Bayside or walking down Bell Boulevard, nothing. I love it. Believe me, I had a lot of fun on Bell, but it's like walking into an episode of Black Mirror. Is it Black Mirror? Is that the show? It's like the new Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Black Mirror.
It's like walking. It's like you're almost in the 80s. I can't explain it, man.
Oh, you're talking about Bayside?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I can explain. I mean, we're around the same age. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, it
hasn't changed. I mean, I went to college. I live about 10 minutes from Bayside, but I went to Queensborough Community College in Bayside in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
In about 86, 87. And excuse my language, I drove past Bayside today. It hasn't effing changed. It's the weirdest phenomenon.
I'm telling you,
right.
dude, it's like walking into an episode of Black Mirror. First time I went there, I'm like, totally. I'm in 1987.
Yeah. 1987 is when I was taking a long-ass F-train subway out to Queens because, I grew up in Brooklyn, born and went to school out there. And it hasn't changed.
I'll give you even more information. And Andrew is like, he's young enough to be my kid. When I first went to hang out with him, I went to his house.
But don't say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he is. He's 20 years younger than me. Went to hang out at his house, and he's like, he puts on this. We're going out. It's cold. He puts this thing on, and he's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "You got to take that shit off, dude." It was a sweater with leather sleeves. That's when I knew that I was over 80s, the bridge.
Though, right?
That's when I knew.
The 80s, like with the patches?
There was no patch. It was just a sweater, zip-up sweater with leather sleeves. And he's like, what do you think? I'm like, I can't go out with you with that, wearing that, dude. I'm sorry.
But is that representing the 80s to you?
But to me, it's very 80s. It's very Bridge and Tunnel, but it's almost like Chess King. Remember Chess King? Remember that story, Chess King?
Yeah.
It's like stepping funny. Into another world. But I love the area though. I mean, the women are totally smoke shows. I love the restaurants and the bars, and Bayside's a really nice place to live.
Yeah. I mean, it really is, and they got that great high school there. I think Cordova.
That's where Andrew went.
Yeah. It's a very good school.
Yeah.
I think at the time when I was going, the school, hanging out in Bayside, going to school there, that school was predominantly Asian, right?
Yeah.
It was, it was very smart. They were very, very good school, a top school, right?
Yeah.
In a sense for high school. Yeah, you're rolling me back.
Yeah, I think Zarian went after that its heyday. I'm just kidding. No, I mean he's a smart kid, man. Believe me, he hooked all the stuff up for me.
Yeah, I could tell. Yeah, he's definitely he's definitely doing a great job.
Yeah, no, he's
a guy from and what a name, Guy from Queens.
Guys from Queens.
Yeah, I'm technically more a Brooklynite. I mean, I moved out to Queens here 10 years ago. I'm 48. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, right? So I'm more of, it took me a long time to get used to Queens because it's on the border of going into Long Island, very suburban-like, right? I drive everywhere. But man, I was used to taking a subway to high school. You know what I mean? Can you imagine that in the 80s?
Oh, I can definitely imagine it. This kid just said I should visit Astoria, Queens. Dude, I used to hang out in Astoria all the time. Dude, I had a girlfriend. First of all, Astoria it's a really working class, like a lot of immigrants, Greek, and at least when I was younger,
very Greek,
very Greek,
it still is,
Brazilian,
very Greek, more Russian and some Russian now.
Yeah,
right?
Russian.
Some Russian.
And some of the best, like, hole-in-the-wall restaurants. I love the outer boroughs.
Huh? What?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Are you sleeping, dude?
So what?
Yeah, I
What?
love.
But
I really do.
I'm
I love
watching.
the outer. I love like Roosevelt Avenue, like under the 7 train, and all of out in Corona, all of like the Colombian restaurants and the Ecuadorian restaurants. And the whorehouses. I mean, what a great area.
We gotta stop now. I'm getting hungry because you're talking about food.
Oh,
Tell us more about your PRP.
Okay.
Let's get back.
We're having a little New York talk.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
But more so, Spencer, my love. Again, I moved out to Queens here 10 years ago. Most of my life, I grew up in Brooklyn. I think you grew up in Brooklyn as well. Right?
I didn't grow up in Brooklyn. I was born in Brooklyn, and when I was right before I went to school, my parents moved us to Manhattan.
To Manhattan, yeah. Okay, so you said Manhattan. Okay, so you're really not a Brooklyn. You're more of a Manhattanite, right?
Yeah. Well, I actually, I mean, I did a lot of living in Brooklyn because my entire family and my cousins were in Brooklyn, so I was out there, on the weekends and shit like that. But yeah, I mean, I grew up from the age of like 4.5 in Manhattan.
Yeah, I totally dig it.
Yeah.
But all right, I know you guys are busy. We're putting Joe to sleep, but I meant to ask you. I watched Andrew Zarian when he says, I'm going to take the Propecia.
Yeah.
Now I noticed it. When I purchased the Propecia for many years, you actually, and I get the brand name. It has the brand name
bottle
logo, right?
Right.
Your bottle. He seemed to have a generic bottle. Is he taking generics?
No, I think that's just his bottle that he has a mixture of pills in, and one of the pills in that bottle, in Andrew's little bottle, was Propecia. But there's other things in there.
Yeah. Yeah, you see how distinct I was watching that?
Yeah.
You're probably saying, yeah, he's watching it. So that solves that.
No, but that guy is a finasteride poster child, man. He is a Propecia poster child.
No, his hair, I mean, one day I'll send you, my hair at 48. His hair, which is pretty good, and his hair is very good. And like you said, and you guys have been saying, and if Andrew's listening, he's going to do very well if he sticks to it, right? With that hair, his hair looks great. I mean, the stuff for some people, I believe, works very well. I believe, works very well for me.
Yeah, well, I would tell you that
extremely well.
It completely reversed his miniaturization process, and when you see him in person, when you see him in person, though, it's frightening how thick his hairline is.
I know that Joe mentioned the Widow's Peak, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And I saw on camera, and the good news, I mean, you guys are very knowledgeable and experts on this, but I believe he's 30-something now. I started taking it in my late 30s, right after. And to this day, I always get looks about my hair.
Yeah.
Which some people will say, it's unreal, because I've been taking consistently, the brand name. There's only that one.
I literally have people saying my hair is not real. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Jesus.
No, listen, and it looks fantastic. Your hair, Joe's hair, but it's the best thing. I mean. It'll be very hard for me to ever give it up. I mean, it's a difference between night and day.
Well, I think we're going to take some more calls, but I think your call and just you saying this is so powerful and can have such a profound impact on people's lives, because there are so many guys out there that are so shit scared to take this drug. And I'm not pushing this drug, but everyone talks about the bad experiences because that's what the internet gravitates to. That's the way the world works. But the reality is, there are millions of men taking this prescription who have great results and little to no side effects.
Side effects. Yeah, and right. And I want to say this. I know you're going to take, and I wanted to get back on the PRP to ask Joe this. But I will say this about at 48, I have I date. I have no sexual side effects. I truly believe, and this is not for everyone, that a large majority of these people that take it and say they have issues, sexual dysfunctions and all of that, I believe a certain number of them, it's coming from other issues. Either they're fighting depression, right, personal issues, things of that magnitude. But if you are relatively healthy, right, you exercise, you have a balanced lifestyle, right, mentally as well as physically, you will have no issues, right? I've never had any issues on this drug.
Well, listen, we're not doctors, and this is all anecdotal, but listen, I've been on the drug for well over 2 decades, and I don't know if I have any issues or not. I don't think I have any issues. Everything seems perfectly fine. Would it be better if I wasn't on it? I'll never know because I'm not getting off this shit.
Right. I hear you, man.
That's it.
Yeah, and I know, absolutely. And I wanted to ask you this question before I go with Joe. I think I saw YouTube that you did do the PRP and the ACell PRP. What has been your experience with that? Doing that?
It was fine. I only did one procedure because I was at Dr. Cooley's office reviewing the clinic. And he told me up front, all of your hair is transplanted. So, we came up with a strategy and, it worked. It did work. In fact, when I called him to ask about some developments I was noticing, one of the things that he said was, well, what normally happens when you start taking finasteride? I started thinking about it. It's like, okay, yeah. He goes, well, it's basically the same type of response that you'll get from finasteride when you have an effective PRP procedure. So it starts to kick in around the same time, or visually starts to kick in about the same time. It has about the same time for development to get to the final result, even though the true efficacy curve with finasteride is up to 24 months. Everyone sees the biggest visual improvements from around 3 months to about a year. And that's what he was explaining to me. He's like, that's what you should experience with this. And if you're seeing something now, that's a good sign. And I was seeing an improvement. The part line was getting thicker. The crown area that he had addressed was thicker. The hair overall, because he did the entire scalp actually, wound up being, I could tell it was fuller. The top of the scalp, not so much. I did see an improvement, but the real improvements I saw were the peripheral areas where the part line is here, if you can see on camera, and then the lower half of my crown where I still have some native hair left. That's what was effective positively. So, yeah, I mean, it's fine. But if I had a lot more native hair on top of my scalp, then I'm confident that I would have seen a better result there as well, because that's where it works. It rejuvenates the hair that's being affected by DHT. It helps to thicken hairs that are miniaturized, which is what you want.
And so what I have read or seen through other information, and you kind of mentioned in the beginning, is this something that you have to do annually or something to get the results in, or is it a one-time thing?
It depends on where you're going. Some clinics will recommend like 2 or 3 sessions in the first 6 months. Some will say 1 session, 1 year, every year, just come back once a year.
Wow.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think that there's a couple of reasons why that is. There might be some sort of difference in the efficacy. Well, I'm certain there is. But there also, you have to consider the fact that there is a difference in how they run their business, their ethics, and how they want to bring patients in. Do do they want to bring in a patient in as often as possible, so they're plunking down some more money, just a repeat revenue resource as much as possible, or do they want to maybe say, hey, come back if you think that it's not continuing to work, like Dr. Cooley. That's what he told me. He said a lot of times he tells his patients, there you go, there's your one treatment, should last for a year, it could last longer. He's got examples on his website that he was showing me. He put up on the website later on, but he's like, this guy was here 4 years ago, and you can see the before and after. The after photo was like a year and a half later, and it was a really nice improvement for the crown. And then another 2.5 years after that, I could have the number of years wrong, but it's like 3 or 4 years. There was still an improvement over the baseline. It wasn't as good as the final result that they documented, but a lot of the hair remained even 2.5 years after that, to where it was still far better than the original position that the patient was in before any PRP. And no finasteride was involved at any time. He was not taking any medical therapy. So
awesome.
I mean, it depends on the formulation, depends on just how often they want to take money from you.
All right, man. Listen,
Right,
we're going to go. We're going to take some more calls.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Love hearing from you. I'm glad you're doing so well. It's great to be in your 40s. How old are you?
Almost 50.
48. Yeah.
48.
Yeah.
It's so funny, dude. You sound so like when I said Andrew is young enough to be my son, that depressed you. When you say 48, that depresses you. Don't let it depress you, man.
No,
we're better off.
Kidding. I was only kidding. I was saying that in the sense, no, I was only kidding, saying that, no, we're cool enough. Well, we're good enough to hang with Andrew. He's not your son, he's not. Having the babies, he was drinking with you. You guys were hanging out. Right?
That's right. That's right.
Right? Come on.
Well, listen, life is, I'm not going to say age is just a number, but the reality is, one thing you don't want to do in life, you don't want to be one of these old guys that tries to stay young. You want to stay in shape. You want to look good, but you don't have to worry about all of the lingo and all the bullshit. Those fucking dudes bother the shit out of me. You know what?
Yeah,
I put on the radio. That's how old I am. I listen to my music in the car, and I'm listening to, heavy metal. I'm listening to Hendrix. I'm listening to the Rolling Stones. I don't give a fuck. Now, I love new music as well, but I don't need to know all about pop culture. When I heard about this guy who's just shot, this rapper, Nipsey Hussle, I'm thinking to myself, am I the only one who's laughing at that name? Am I the only one who doesn't recognize the irony of? There was a guy by the name of Nipsey Russell who was like on every Dean Martin celebrity roast there ever was.
He was awesome.
Right.
I love Nipsey Russell.
Nipsey, I know who you're talking about.
But you think these millennials know that? Oh, by the way, if you want to see something totally politically incorrect, if you want to go back to another time in this world, go on Netflix or on Amazon and watch those Dean Martin celebrity roasts. Watch the one watch the one when they're roasting Sammy Davis Jr. It's mortifying. That it is absolutely mortifying.
Listen, I totally get it. I mean, you're talking to. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a black guy, right?
Yeah,
I totally get it.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you're like you're black guy number 4 who calls the show.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, don't tell me the whitest black guy, because I had a friend that used to say that. But,
no,
I've got the full afro and everything. I mean, it's but the thing is that I do watch and I love that time, the Rat Pack time. The Sammy Davis.
But watch that particular roast, and I'm looking at poor Sammy. And he had to play that role his whole life in order to be where he was.
Yeah.
But
no,
it was fucking brutal. I mean, I couldn't even believe it. I think about it, I'm like, how is this aired on television?
Well, especially when you got Don Rickles involved.
Don Rickles was.
He was amazing.
He was amazing. It was funny as shit, especially for the time. But if you really put things into perspective to where things are today, you can't. You cannot believe that this even happened.
Listen, I was just
It's
thinking earlier
it's
today.
about as PC as Blazing Saddles.
It's
I totally get
worse,
that.
but
Yeah,
yeah.
I totally get that. Yeah, it would never go along today. But it's funny you mentioned this guy Nipsey Hussle, because I had the same brainstorm as you earlier today, and I said, and I agree with you. I don't ever try to be young or younger, but I like to listen to my music, and I'm a huhuge Sinatra fan.
Oh, wow.
The thing is, with these guys, this generation now is so sad. If you look up this guy's girlfriend, she's biracial. Her name is, if you already know, Laura London. Beautiful girl in her 30s, beautiful, he had a baby with. And I say to myself, you're 35 years old, getting caught up into all this BS, right? It's just sad.
Yeah.
You know? Just sad, you know, because you have to maintain this rep or whatever. It's saddening, you know. But I agree with you. I mean, that's the one thing about, I say, you know, getting in our years, aging, that you do develop a certain perspective, and all of that shit on the external, you know, you just kind of tune it out. You know,
you
some
have
of the best things I do, simple, is just being in your car, listening to your music, you know. But it's funny you mentioned that today, because I thought about exactly the same thing as you earlier. And I said, look at this guy, young guy, 35 years old, you know. Say no more.
There you go, man. All right, well, listen. I'm going to call you Nipsey from now on.
No, I wouldn't want that. You can call me Dirk.
Dirk. All right, Dirk.
I love that.
All right, man.
It's an amazing moniker.
Well, listen, I'm really glad you're doing well. It's great to hear from you, and we'll talk soon, all right?
Yeah, and you and Joe look like you're doing well, man. I like your vibe. You got the Budweiser, you got your Mac there.
Well,
You're just cool.
I appreciate that, man. We'll talk soon.
I got a Mac, too.
Take it easy. Yeah, but people are focusing on me. I'm just kidding. All right, dude, later.
I got two.
Phone number 888-659-3727. Before Joe goes nuts, let's take another call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey. I've called the show before. This is like the New York City subway rider. I don't know if you remember me.
Dude, you are the, what's your name again? You're the only caller that ever called from the New York City subway.
Yeah, it's Kenny.
Kenny, it sounds like you're still on the subway.
No, I'm in my apartment.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had better reception in the subway.
Really? That's weird. Maybe because I live in like a really old building now. I used to live in the Bronx. Now I'm in Manhattan, so.
Where about? I mean, no one knows who you are, so whereabouts Manhattan?
No, I'm in East Harlem.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's a happening place now.
Yeah, no, it's nice. And I'm much closer to work, too, which is good. So I don't have to, like, take a long subway ride like I used to.
Very cool. Do you ever go to, I mean, it's really the Upper West Side, but do you ever go to, like, to the original Carmine's down on, was it 96th Street in Columbus?
I mean, I've walked past it before, but I've never.
Well, then stop in if you like Italian food.
Yeah, I'm half Italian.
Again with the food.
I'm hungry too, dude.
I'm starving now.
I do the intermittent fasting thing. I didn't eat till 3:00 today.
Oh man, that's rough.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think I could do that. That's a long time without eating.
Yeah. Well, you know what? There's people starving in Africa.
That's true.
Yeah.
It is very true.
But we're not in Africa.
That's true. So what's going on, man?
What's going on, man?
So I'm calling today because I was curious. I've been on Propecia for about, I guess, like 6 years, and everything's been going well. I think I've like maintained, like my hairline, whatever. I noticed that maybe like my left temple might have been like receding a little bit, maybe like the past like year or so. Nothing. I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but like I still have like. Really like thick hair and everything.
You really are breaking up, man. Is there another place in the house that you could, maybe walk to another area?
Let me see. Hello?
Yeah.
Is this better or?
Oh, let's keep talking and see how it works out.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so I noticed that like it was, just a little bit, not like a lot though. But is that like normal? Like, when were you like noticing where like you were maintaining, and then you started to like maybe lose a little bit of ground?
I kind of felt that I was really strong for like the first 6 or 7 years on medication. And then I remember I was in a hotel in Washington. I was actually was I at the Watergate? It may have been the Watergate. And I just happened to be, I was blow drying my hair and happened to use a hand mirror to check the back of my head. And I was like, what the fuck? This is before I started to wear derm match or Topic. And I just got that panic that I had before, because I thought the shit was over. But it wasn't terrible, but I just noticed that there was a change. So it's been a very, very slow process. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So we're talking about, I noticed that about over 15 years ago, more than that. And it really hasn't progressed that far. It's progressed, but it's been very slow.
All right. Yeah, because I first noticed like my hair loss at like 21.
Yeah.
And then I didn't take anything for like 3 years.
Right.
And then like at 23, I went on Propecia, and I'm 27 now.
Yeah.
So I've been on it for a while. And I knock on wood, I haven't had like any effects or anything like that. But what I'm calling is because like I started taking like an antidepressant.
Did you notice a change in your hair after, or a few weeks after you started taking the antidepressant?
No. Like I noticed like not even, because you know what it is, I was hesitant on taking an antidepressant because I heard of the fact that it could cause hair shedding or anything like that. So I was, but like I recently went on it, and like I'll knock on wood, I haven't really like noticed anything.
Have you noticed anything positive?
Okay.
Well, like my mood is better, definitely.
That's good.
But it's like a 10 milligram pill of like Lexapro, so I don't think it's not like a lot.
Well, how long have you been on it?
I've been on it now for like 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not noticing any shedding, 3 months is it's a significant period of time. You would probably start to notice some sort of change from the medication if you had medication-induced hair loss in like 6 weeks or 8 weeks. So you're probably pretty good.
Okay.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, because I mean, I noticed there are some days where like I do shed a lot, but it's not like, and then some days I don't really shed that much. So I don't know if that's like a normal thing.
Well, did you notice that prior to taking the drug?
Yeah, like I've just like periodically, like even before I was taking the drug, I noticed it a little.
Well, if there's no discernible change after you start to, and again, I'm not a physician, but if there's no discernible change after you started to take the Lexapro, you're probably not going to experience at least that side effect, if any side effects. I mean, antidepressants could have a lot of different side effects, including sexual dysfunction, just like finasteride. Actually, in a much greater percentage of guys who use it, and some antidepressants are actually used to treat like premature ejaculation because it kind of dulls things down there. So a lot of guys who have issues with that, it's usually more of an anxiety thing. They'll take an antidepressant and they all of a sudden they're rock stars. So I mean,
it's so funny that you mentioned that because like I've been on Propecia and like I didn't experience like really any sexual dysfunction, but like when I started taking Lexapro, like I couldn't get off. If that like makes sense.
It does make sense. It holds that you can, when you're on certain serotonin uptake inhibitors.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a pain. It's pretty frustrating not to be able to get off, but it can make you last forever. Like,
that's right.
In an annoying way, like where the woman's just like, enough already. I got to go to work in the morning.
Right. But yeah, no, that was definitely, and I felt nauseous too, like the first 2 weeks of taking the antidepressant.
Now, I'm curious, did that side effect subside at all, or you still have it?
What? Couldn't get off?
Yeah.
It actually did subside.
Good.
But I still last longer than I did.
Well, look, I mean, that could be a bone. It depends on your situation. At my age, that's not a good thing 'cause I get tired. You know?
Yeah.
But for a lot of guys, that's a bonus.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely, absolutely. Because it was just I've never had that really happen before with a drug.
Yeah, I'm at a point in my life now where if someone wants to do a 69, I'm like, can we just do the 9? You know, I want to go and get something to eat, and that's it. But yeah, man. Well, listen, it sounds like if you are progressing a little bit, it's pretty normal. It doesn't mean all of a sudden you're going to go bald. Doesn't mean you're going to be in a much worse place in 10 years. I noticed it within the first, like I said, 6 or 7 years of taking the drug that I started to slowly progress again. And it's been very, very slow. I mean, hairline went up a little bit. I definitely have to wear more paint. The overall fullness is not what it was after the first year or so of taking the drug, but I was also much younger. But in general, I feel very lucky that I'm going to be 54 years old and the drug has saved so much of my hair.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my main goal, because all I really want is just to maintain what I have, at least until I'm in my 40s,
Oh, dude, that's such bullshit. That's what you think
I
now.
hate hearing that. That's horseshit, dude. How old are you?
I'm 27.
I have glued.
Yeah,
I have glued, not full wigs, but I've glued pieces of hair onto my head when I was in, I don't know. I was already 40 years old, giving it a shot. I'd rather paint, but I will do anything I possibly can if the time comes to maintain the appearance of a full-looking head of hair. You don't hit a certain point.
Because it's you don't just I'm 45, I can let my hair go. It doesn't work like that. When you're 45, you want to hang on to it more than you did at 27.
I gotta tell you, because when you're 45 and you have a decent-looking head of hair, you win by attrition, my man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's win by attrition.
That's exactly where it is. I listen. This is not bragging, and Joe knows for himself because compared to his contemporaries, he's got a lot more hair. You walk into a bar at our age, and you still are able to attract women of a certain age. It feels pretty good. There's nothing wrong with that. And you suffer from depression now. Wait till you're 45 years old and bald.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
So the reality is, and again, we're just kind of it's a little tongue in cheek, but the reality is, it doesn't matter how old you are. I know guys who started to lose their hair at 65 years old. There's one guy in particular, and he wanted to kill himself. I mean, that's one end of the spectrum. But this was a guy who was super handsome model type of dude his entire life, and that just totally fucked him up.
Yeah, it's actually in my experience, I found that the guys that hang on to their hair into their 40s and then they start losing it, they're usually the ones that are the most fucked up about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just lose their shit, even with a little bit of temporal recession. So don't think that you just want to hang on till your 40s, because if you can hang on to it till you're in your 40s, you'll want to hang on to it until your 60s, till you're, it's there's a reason I've had patients that come in for surgery at 75 years old. Hair matters. Wow. When you have it and then you lose it, it matters.
It's funny. We don't have a lot of older guys who call the program, but through the American Hair Loss Association, we get a tremendous amount of email from older men and women. And when I mean older, I'm talking about people over 70.
Yeah.
And what I find fascinating, by the way, about people over 70 is they found the American Hair Loss Association online. And then they took the time to write a letter and send it to us to communicate with us. That actually happens. What is that about? I don't understand that logic. They found us online, but they wrote a letter. But anyway, so I guess my point is, again, tongue-in-cheek, is that, A, for yourself on a personal level, what you're going through is probably nothing. Just kind of watch and wait. You've already been taking the medication for several years. What, it's 4 years now, right?
Well, 23 and 27, yeah, 4 years. Right?
Okay.
4.
Do you have room if things aren't working out the way that you like to talk to your doctor? You have room to up your dosage. You have room to, there's other 5-alpha reductase type 1, type 2 inhibitors like dutasteride. There are other treatments that are now being shown to be, a good adjunct like PRP, depending on who you get it from. You're probably going to be in a pretty good position.
Do you think I could get a PRP treatment? Like, is that,
I don't think, unless you see something drastic happening, I would not fuck with anything at this point.
I wouldn't introduce another variable at this point. Don't do it.
Oh. Okay.
It's always going to be there for you, all right, Matt?
All right, yeah, sounds good. And, that was all my questions that I had.
Okay, well, listen, thanks for the call. I'm glad you're still listening. And do us a favor. I don't know if you're in Joe's chat room, or go to Joe's chat room. Like the show. We had like 40-something people in the room at one point. There's 10 likes. Liking the program on Joe's chat, just, that thumbs up button, it works on YouTube's algorithms to make the program more popular. So everyone in the room, make sure that happens. All right, man, listen, good luck.
All right, thanks again. Thank you.
Great talking to you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. Everybody's watching the show. Whether if you're watching it on another outlet and it happens to be an embed to Joe's show, to Joe's page, go to Joe's page and like this program. Do it now. And also subscribe if you're not a subscriber. 888-659-3727. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, guys, it's Morty from Florida.
Morty, how are you, man?
Morty.
Good, man.
How are you?
Doing good, man. Haven't spoken to you in a little while. I'm doing fine, guys.
Joe, I think Joe has a little bone to pick with you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I would like him to, actually, because I posted a question and then I couldn't hang around for the answer, and I'm very sorry about that. But before we go there, I want to just do one thing. I want to give a shout-out to Dr. Wesley because he saved my life. I ran out of Finn, and I called my doctor in New York because I haven't gotten a doctor here, and the doctor basically disappeared. So I was like, fuck, what do I do? So I called Dr. Wesley. I got Barbara on the phone, and believe it or not, it's not the same Barbara. His assistant, Barbara, she passed away suddenly. And
I know about
she got replaced. Yeah. No, I was shocked by this. Yeah. And so she was replaced with a new Barbara, which is even trippier because she sounds exactly the same on the phone. But anyway, I called Dr. Wesley. Yeah, I know. It's really weird, actually. So I called Dr. Wesley, and he got me a new script. So, kudos and shout-out to Dr. Wesley for that.
There you go. He's a good guy.
Okay.
Yes, he is. So anyway, I wanted to get that out there. This was like, I guess it was 2 weeks ago now. One of the things that, Joe, you'd mentioned was, and this is after your many comments about not being greedy with hair, that you were planning on going into the knife again. And I had to call you out on it, man, because, it's it's surprising. Let's put it that way. You don't need it. You look fine. I don't know why you would want to do it again.
Well, to be more specific, you called me a hypocrite.
Well, that's true.
I did
because
in your comment.
Yeah, I did, and
Morty
I'll own up to it.
Morty has a very nice demeanor and a very friendly demeanor on the phone. But when something rubs him the wrong way, holy shit, man, he just pounds away. When he said that I'm glad you banged your knee. Because I told him jokingly to go to a hooker?
I know.
Dude, you may need to go to anger management classes, dude.
I'm thinking dial back on something.
You wouldn't be the first person to tell me that I do occasionally fly off the handle.
There you go. There you go. And I'm just busting your balls. I really don't give a shit, but I do think I find human nature fascinating.
It's fascinating, yeah.
Well,
Fascinating.
I use the word hypocrisy because the thing is, Joe, you're a kingmaker, and if you're gonna make a statement along the lines of you was something along the lines of like you guys can't wait to find out who my doctor is going to be. That doctor is going to basically fly to the top of the heap, and that's a lot of power, man. You know. And
let me correct you on something. You said that I'm planning on having another procedure. That's false. I never said I was planning on having another procedure. I said I was thinking about having another procedure. And so there's mistake number one. Okay, you misheard or you misremembered. But secondly, don't you think I'm in a position?
Calm down.
No, I'm calm. But don't you think I'm in a position to know what I'm getting into? The reason why I say I don't say avoid. I don't tell people not to keep getting hair transplants because of hair greed. I recommend people stop while they're ahead. In other words, the more times, and I've said this many times, the more times you go in for a procedure, the higher the probability of getting a fucked up result somehow. Donor scar, FUE scarring, bad growth, bad whatever, insert problem here. Your odds go up to have something negative happen, right? So it's the law of diminishing returns. I say don't have a hair transplant in. Well, I got a video dedicated to it. It's 500,000 views. I'm preaching this across the board because people don't look at the downside potential. They only look at the upside potential. So the message is, if you haven't looked at the downside potential, don't have a hair transplant until you've considered all options. So I think I'm in a pretty good position after everything I've been through to know what the potential downsides are. So if I say I'm considering it, or even if I do decide to have my own procedure, I'm not being a hypocrite. I'm being, well, first off, I'm doing what I want with my own scalp, but I understand what I'm getting into because I'm the one that preaches this. I'm the one that understands that I might be fucking my head up. So on the other side of that, you said I'm a kingmaker. I appreciate that. After I said I'm considering it, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. I've had offers to go to these different clinics to have it done, and I said stop to every one of them. I'm like, really appreciate it, but you also have to understand that if I do have a procedure by you, whomever I was talking to at the moment, no one's going to know about it because I'm not going to publicize who I went with, because once I do that, then everyone else is going to be pissed at me. It's not fair. So, am I going to do it? Probably not. I'm thinking about it because just like anyone else, I look at the crown of it's like the front and the top. I'm done.
People have asked me for years.
I don't want to do anything.
Whether I've had a transplant or if I had a transplant, who would I go to? That would be fucking professional suicide. And if I had a transplant, wink, wink, and if I ever choose to have a transplant, no one will know who I go to. Ever.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Not going to happen.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear.
Because I was offered, just like Joe, all the time. And I remember the first people that offered me a free hair transplant, Joe happened to work for. And I am like, it's not going to happen, and I appreciate it, but if you do it for free, no one's going to know about it.
It would be the best decision you ever make.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So and all the time, people, anyone who's ever walked into this place, anyone who's ever checked out my crown, anyone who's just like, yeah, no problem, just come in, we'll do it. Now, there have been a few guys who have offered me the transplant and essentially qualified it by saying, I don't even need you to promote me. I appreciate what you do. I have a lot of respect for you. And if you want something done, I'll do it. That's great. But Yeah, that would nobody, in my view, who has any true credibility is going to go out there and, especially in a position like Joe's, pimp their doctor. Joe just happened to talk. He talks about Dr. Wong because he started from a different position. He was a guy who just went online to document his repair case, and that's how his career started. Right, Joe?
No, I've watched all the videos.
Yeah, that's actually, that's what kicked it off for me. And then, I was expected to continue to do that, which I was happy to do because he deserved it. But, surgery first and then the promotion. Now I'm in the public space. The moment I mention it's Dr. So-and-so, whatever, that either makes their career even better, or they're closing their doors, depending on how the results come out.
And Morty, so what this is my suggestion to you, by the way. There's a book. I think the first book you should get is Anger Management for Dummies. It does exist.
Okay.
Check it out. And then there's
he's laughing now, Spencer, but you're going to get an envelope in the mail with white powder in it next week.
There's another book called Dance.
Oh my goodness.
The Dance with Anger. I think you should check that out as well. And read it. Let us know let us know your thoughts. But the easiest one to find is Anger Management for Dummies. Very basic stuff. And next time you decide to make a comment about something you feel in the chat, you might pull back a little bit and say, "Wait, that sounds angry. I might not want to put it that way." He's getting angry now. I hear it.
But does that make sense? What I was saying, Morty?
Yeah, I get it. I get it. And the most important thing you said, Joe, was that if you do decide to do it, that you're not going to mention who it is. And I think that that's really important.
I think it's important for a couple of reasons. Number one, it would end my career if I did, because it's like what would the other doctors I work with say, right?
Yeah,
it's like they would be so pissed. Well, it wouldn't end my career. I'd have to get a bunch of new doctors, but it's But the other side of that is it's like I was just thinking out loud, and I think I should be allowed to do that. It's like
okay.
I have my own insecurities. It's like my crown is weak, and if I put Hairton in it, which I do from time to time, I'm still anti-concealer, only because it's addictive, and I have used it more in the past, I'd say, year than I have in my entire life, only because I have it, only because it's so good. But man, when I use it, holy shit, man, it's like I do start thinking, it's like, God, I just 1,000 grafts. I got about 1,500 left. If I had that 1,500 put in my crown, man, that would be just stick a fork in me. I'd be done. The hair would be beautiful. I wouldn't even benefit really from concealer, but there's the danger of it. No one's more cognizant of what can go wrong than I am.
1,000. Right? I mean, you basically. Sorry.
No one's more cognizant of what can go wrong than I am. I preach about this. Kidding. I've been through it.
Yeah, that's what I found surprising when you said it. Honestly. Anyway. Guess a letter?
Well, look, we're still here. Look, but yeah, you said that, and I was waiting for you to call back in because I wanted to get your clarification and explain why it's not being hypocritical.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, I appreciate your candor with respect to your own feelings because, I mean, to me, I'll tell you what angered me is I'm a little jealous, man. I like the way your hair looks. I think it looks pretty awesome. I've called you guys a couple of times. I've been on to see some of the doctors we talked about, and I've kind of made a promise to myself that I was going to give finasteride a full year, and I'm coming up on it. And I've had some benefits, but I'm still not where I would like to be. And, so I don't know. Like I said, it kind of bugged me that you planned on going under the knife after you had had 10 procedures, and
and that's what I remembered you saying, because you also said something before you left that he tells everyone else not to have surgery, and I knew that you were talking about you. I knew it. I'm not stupid. I recognize it for what it is.
But I need to know what do you think Joe's reasoning would be? Does he not want other people to be happy? Do you think he doesn't want people to, enjoy their hair? He wants to be the only dude in town with a great head of hair. Why would he be telling people not to fucking have surgery if it wasn't legit? If it wasn't for a reason, if it wasn't to actually help people?
I want all the doctors to not be busy, so that when I do decide to have surgery, I'll be able to choose my date.
Like, I'm just curious, Morty, because when you say things like it made me angry, I mean, it's like it upset me. Like, what do you think his motivation would be, except to tell you guys the truth?
All I can say there, Spencer, is about your book. I probably need to read it because it was shooting from the hip, and I'm angry about being bald, man. I am. I'm.
Well, that's fair.
That is fair. That's fair. Just don't take it out on me.
Yeah,
I'm here for you, man.
No, but you know what? That's also it. Also says a lot about you to be able to say that, and I appreciate that. That is.
Thank you.
And by the way, that's going to be a great sound clip I'm going to use. I'm angry about being bald, but that people are. They're angry about having to go through this, and that's very real. And that actually speaks to the tone of most hair loss message forums. The reason why everyone is so nasty to each other, the reason why everyone is so hateful, or so many people are, the reason why there's such drama is because people are upset and angry that this is happening to them.
Absolutely.
So I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, this prompts you one of the reasons that I called, in addition to calling out a shout out to Dr. Wesley, and actually finally getting through the other side of this little conversation, was I got some blood work back, and I got some news which I didn't particularly care for. Specifically, I got low T. I got diagnosed with low T. And I can't help but think that it's because of what I've been using, because of the medication that I've been using. And that didn't make me feel very happy either. And I knew that you guys would understand, and so I figured I'd call in and talk to you guys.
Well, normally, just to let you know, I mean, if you are taking finasteride, you're going to have a decreased level of DHT and an increased level of free-flowing testosterone. Usually by about 10%. There is no evidence that points to, or no causal evidence that points to this drug lowering testosterone in any way, shape, or form. You are almost 50 years old, and the parameters for low T are very interesting. First of all, low T is a marketing term that was created by a pharmaceutical company, and then it became a diagnosis. Period. So there are many people walking around this earth who are our age or younger who would have, on paper, low T without any of the perceived effects of having lower levels of testosterone.
Yep.
So I think in most cases it's a bunch of bullshit. And just because you have you were diagnosed with low T does not mean you need to take anything or do anything unless you feel much different than you think you should be feeling.
Yeah, it's a tough call. The thing is that you look through the laundry list of low T symptoms, and you see things like depression, difficulty sleeping, muscle weakness. These are such nebulous symptoms that you can point at them and say, yeah, I got those things. I have trouble sleeping.
That's what the drug companies, I hate to say it, that's what they want you to do.
Yeah. But let me ask you this: did you have a base level test before, like a year ago or earlier? Like, did you have something to compare it to?
Nope.
Yeah.
So you could have had the same levels for 25 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
That's what I was leading into. It's like your levels could be completely unchanged relative to what you're told they should be. Because they're looking at averages across a large spectrum. So you may be fine as far as that goes. You don't know.
You guys, I mean, I know
you have
you're
nothing
not,
to compare it to.
Yeah. Okay. And now I know you guys are not doctors. I'm going to repeat that for the audience. But if I throw some numbers at you, could you guys say something about them, or not really?
I couldn't. I that's not my area. I couldn't.
Okay. And how about you, Spence?
I'd rather not, but I can.
Fair enough. Okay.
What do you want to know?
All right. So basically there's a total. All right. It's 353 NGDL. Free is measured at 4.5 PG/mL, and DHT is 5 NGDL. And those are the numbers that I see here. The numbers that are marked as low is free and DHT. Now DHT obviously is going to be low because of what I'm on. But the free number is low, and it's lower than the DHT number.
Okay, how low is your free?
Free is 4.5 PG/mL. And according to this, the reference interval is supposed to be between 7.2 and 24.
Okay. Just to let you know, I mean, if you go online, you check it out, there are normal ranges that are within that range for some people. And some people who are 25 years old have those ranges. The fact that your free-flowing testosterone, first of all, free-flowing testosterone in general, and I'm not a physician, will not have much of an impact on your sexual health or on your muscle mass. So the fact that that's low is not the end of the world. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's something that's outrageous, especially for a person your age.
Okay. Well, that's very comforting. And thank you for that.
I mean, and again, it could have been the same way. I mean, how long have you been depressed? And first of all, who isn't depressed?
I was about to say.
Name somebody who isn't depressed.
I'm Jewish, man. Come on, we're born that way.
Yeah. I got stoned a few. I got stoned a few.
For God's sake.
I got stoned a few weeks ago with Zarian, and we turn off the lights. Television goes off. He goes in. Goes into his room, and all of a sudden I close my door, and I'm like, "What the fuck is happening in my life?" I went into like a mini tailspin just for a second. Now, obviously, there was legal marijuana involved, so I wasn't thinking properly. But the reality is, people look at my life, and they're like, on paper, it's pretty fucking good. And I'm not complaining, believe me. But there are times, and there are things, and there are situations that depress me. I have been, and I talk about it all the time, especially when I was younger, clinically depressed. Does that mean that I need to be on medication? No, it doesn't. Does it mean that I'm going to off myself? No, it doesn't. It just means that for longer than a 2-week period, I was feeling blue. It happens to all of us. Does that mean I have low
T? The diagnosis of depression is spread out far too much, just like with kids and ADD. It's like, can't they just be like just like a normal kid that grows out of it? It's like, why do we have to diagnose everything with a medic and
Dude, I don't want to have kids because I know I would have to put them on drugs. That is the world we live in today.
No, you don't want to have kids because you have to give them some of your drugs.
That's true. But I'm telling you, I mean, every kid that I know, especially in this town, is taking Adderall or Ritalin or some shit. They do not have the opportunity to grow up and have a normal brain development. There's no fucking way I would give a kid any of these drugs unless they were so out of control. That was the only thing that can calm them down. But I would they're like dogs, man. I hate to say it. You gotta exercise these kids. You gotta get them out. You gotta change their minds about things. You can't just let them sit there, put them in front of a monitor, and expect them to be okay, and just give them drugs, because these kids are growing up. They're fucked up now, man.
So more, it's just, I can't imagine being a kid today. It's like, kids give them an iPad just to shut them up. and all I do is sit there. They're fucking games.
Dude, I know kids, 4-year-old kids. You take that phone away, it's over. It's their pacifier now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, anyway, dude, stop thinking so much. That's all I'm going to tell you. Life is short.
Yep.
I know that you're
This is
angry
true.
because you lost your hair, and I understand that, but you also seem to be handling things, for the most part, pretty well in your life.
Yeah.
And,
I would agree.
you know, this could be your last fucking phone call. You could hang up this phone and have a fucking aneurysm. And that's it.
True.
That's reality.
Yep.
So unless you
I've
feel
been-
really affected by, if you're having trouble sexually, if you're having if you're really tired all the time, I wouldn't even give this a second thought.
What I would do
I'm not a
is I would
doctor,
look
though.
at what I'm eating. I would look at my nutrition. What am I putting into my body? How much exercise am I getting? But mainly, what am I putting in my body? Because let me tell you, when I was in my 20s and 30s, late 20s, early 30s, and I, went to a job back when I had a job. Lunchtime, sandwich time. Love sandwiches. Forget it, like ham, turkey, just a Dagwood, right? From back in the day. Love deli sandwiches. Couldn't get enough of them. Go have my deli sandwich, maybe a bag of chips, like vinegar and salt. If I was feeling, little happy with myself, have my soda, and go back to work. And an hour later, you'd have to smack me in the face to wake me up. And that was my existence.
It's like the way he is on the show.
Just like I am on the show when they start talking about New York. And it took a long time. I eventually recognized that I needed to stop eating sandwiches for lunch because it was killing me. But eventually, and you've heard me talk about it before, eventually as I got older and moved around and eventually settled here and got older and started really thinking about my health and really thinking about my nutrition, that's when a whole new world opened up for me. And I don't remember the last time I was tired during the middle of the day again. And when I say tired, I mean, you're not really tired, but boy, if I went to lay down on that bed, I could just really curl up and under a blanket and go to sleep. Or one of the situations where my life sucks and I just don't think I want to be nice to anyone. You know what I'm talking about. It's like you have those days, right?
Yeah.
I don't.
I had one of those
I don't
days
have
when
those days.
commented on the freaking show.
The
Really?
days I have now are the days where I'm just like, I hate people because there's, it's like sometimes it gets to me with, the amount of stupidity that exists in this world. And I don't mean like people with low IQs. I'm just talking about people that there's something wrong that they don't understand something that's right in front of them. Some of it comes down to just basic disagreements with people, but I really will have days. I tell Spencer about it. It's just like, what happened today? So many people I ran into today were either pissed off about something, not thinking things through when they do something, or just doing stupid shit, and I can't handle it. That's probably the only thing in my life on a daily basis that really gets to me. It's people doing stupid shit. And it's even worse when it affects me.
You're on the wrong business, my man.
Directly affects me. No, I know, but that goes to the point that a lot of shit rolls off my back. Like I'm not one of these people that there are people in this world in my life that when they see something that's wrong about something in their life or their business, they lose their fucking minds. They can't stop thinking about it and they can't stop bitching about it. Whereas I'm the kind of person, it's like, can I take care of it now? Yes or no? Okay. If it's no, can I take care of it later? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Then I wait till I can take care of it, or I take steps to take care of it at a different time. If I can take care of it now, great, I do. But I don't like lose my mind over it. I don't let it ruin my day, usually. And so my point is that my nutrition, I don't overeat. I actually, I'm eating less now than ever. But I don't eat junk food. The biggest, like the worst junk food I've had recently was over the weekend. My wife went and found a barbecue rib place. I had ribs. I had, cornbread and, Southern food. That was the worst I've had. I'll have a glass of wine maybe twice a week now. I don't even drink every night. So I don't drink sodas. I don't bring in all these processed foods anymore. And I got to tell you, man, once you get over that sugar hump, like if you cut your sugar intake down, your energy will skyrocket. It'll be consistent. You'll wake up, bam, refreshed, just like that. You'll go throughout the entire day without being down. You won't be tired. You won't be depressed. And then at the end of the night, when you're going to bed, you lay down, you'll be asleep in 5 minutes.
Dude, where are my cigarettes?
That's what I do. I'm telling you. Yeah.
All right, Morty, listen, we're gonna let you go, man. We're gonna let you go. We got to go. The show's over.
Yeah, guys, thank you for the time, Joe. I want to tell you, in terms of nutrition, I do not have a sugar problem. I don't drink sodas, but we can talk about that another time. Guys, thanks again. Always great hearing from you. Always great listening to the show.
All right, man. Listen, Anger Management for Dummies. It's a real book.
I believe it.
All right, man. Take care.
I'll look it up.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye.
He's still correcting me. It's like at the end, he's like, I just want to let you know, I don't do that. It's like, okay. That's not the point.
Yeah, he got a little angry when I mentioned the Anger Management book again.
I could feel it through the call. He was getting upset.
He's cool. He's cool. I just like busting his balls a little bit. Guys who are holding on, I'm sorry, we're not going to take any more calls. Well, this is a.
You're going to do it, aren't you?
Well, it's a New York number. And
great! So we get to talk about Queens again.
All right, we're gonna make this really quick because I'm hungry. Hey, man, who's this? You're on the air.
I'm not going to take a lot of time, but you wanted an old man to call in, so the old man Dante is calling in.
Dante, what's happening, man?
How you guys
What's
doing?
up, buddy?
Okay, you're not that old.
I'll be 63 in about 1 month.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're getting up there, but listen, I'm gonna be 54, so you know, 9 years. When you think about it, that goes by so quickly, man.
You ain't Lions fans, it flies. But here's the thing, I want to just reinforce this again. These guys that care about their hair at 40, they think at 50 they're not going to care. At 50 they think at 60 they're going to care. If you care, whether you're bald or not, it doesn't matter. That's a personal thing, how you feel about yourself. But if you're concerned about having hair, it doesn't matter how old you are. You're never going to want to lose that hair. I'm almost 63, like I said. I don't want to lose my hair. I'm doing everything I can to hang on.
Dude, I'm holding on to every fucking strand that I can. I will glue it on. I will transplant. I will do whatever it takes to somehow maintain a full looking head of hair.
Dante, my next video.
You're still going to feel the
Dante,
same way.
my next video is going to be about this little hair that keeps coming back in the middle of my forehead. What does this hair want? It's like right here.
One hair left.
One hair.
The Soul Survivor. Listen, Dante, man, thanks for the call. Always good to hear an old guy calling in. I'm glad you're doing well.
Old guys, you too.
All right, man.
We want to keep the hair going.
All right, man. Thanks for listening. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Guys, take the time to like the program. There were a lot of people in Joe's room tonight, so we only have 21 likes. Like it. There should be at least 30, 35, 40 likes to the broadcast right now.
Mariotti said that at least he didn't mention hookers again.
Oh, yeah, and by the way, get the book, Morty, and go get a hooker, for crying out loud. What's the big deal?
He's going to find you with a baseball bat.
A legal hooker.
I'm just kidding, Morty. Just kidding, buddy.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to call it a night. Joe always promises to do this, but he never does. So why don't you give out those websites at the end, as usual?
Let's see. Thanks, Morty. He says my like is there. Thanks, buddy. websites. Oh yeah, we got 3 websites that support. Well, I won't go into it, but we got 3 great websites that understand what we're doing and why, and they're happy to support our message. The first of which is international-hairlossforums.com. It's a French, yes, Francais, hair restoration and the hair loss forum. Clinics are sharing their results. Lots of doctors involved. You've got patients sharing their experiences. It's all translated into English if you're using a good browser. That's international-hairlossforum.com. Next up, we've got bellicapelli.forumfree.it. Funny name, great resource. It's the Italian hair loss and hair transplant forum. Again, great doctors sharing their results, great patients sharing their experiences. Repair patient that owns and operates that forum, a good personal friend of mine, and he recommends.
Dude, we're having some weird problems. I don't know if it's your internet or if it's our connection to each other. But that's really odd. That's never happened before. You've completely frozen. Can you hear me? All right. Joe froze. Don't know what's going on. He may have to reconnect. But you know what? I think he mentioned all of the forums. If not, I don't remember them. So I'm sorry, guys. I don't have them in front of me. Check out thebaldtruth.com for archives of this broadcast. Have not put a lot of archives out for a long time. They are in the till, or in the can, so to speak. I've actually been texted by some physicians who I have interviewed who are asking, where is their content? I apologize to everyone. Things have been extremely, frantically busy, and in a good way. We are trying to save this field. We are trying to evolve the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons in a way that is not just me doing it alone. That's all I can say. You know, we're talking to certain state agencies and just trying to get things done in order to ensure that this field eventually becomes a safer place, because right now the negative is growing exponentially. Someone's got to do something about it. The so-called powers that be, sadly, are not doing anything about it. So we've been taking a lot of time, spending a lot of money to kind of roll out some new stuff, which you guys will be privy to very soon. So I apologize for not getting the archives up or getting the podcast on iTunes. That will be happening soon. But in the meantime, you can check out all of the shows that we do on Joe Tillman's YouTube page, which is youtube.com/hairtransplantmentor. Subscribe to that page. Ring the bell once you subscribe to make sure that you get notified that the program is live. That is a great way to support the show. You can follow me, excuse me, on Instagram, and that is at Spencer Kobren. Do me a favor. We're trying to grow that Instagram presence. We've been getting a lot of interest from the media just from stuff that I've been posting in the last month, which is pretty amazing. Have not really been an Instagrammer, if that's how you call it, and just kind of getting into it now, and people seem to really be enjoying the truth and the information that we're providing. So that's at Spencer Kobren on Instagram. The website's iahrs.org for the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. If you're considering surgical hair restoration, hey, look, founded the organization almost 20 years ago, wanted to create a safe place for people to start to do their research, and we have. And again, we are evolving the organization into a much more robust resource. Let's put it that way. So we're looking forward to that. The American Hair Loss Association, that's AmericanHairLoss.org. And I guess that's it. BaldTruthTalk.com is our message forum. Check out BaldTruthTalk.com. Until next time, which I think will be Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.
Bud Light presents Real American Heroes.
Real American heroes.
Today we